look him in the eye. That's all you got to do. You know what to do.
Oh yeah.
You know what to do.
I was
getting it, but you got it.
Yeah, I was always impressed.
No. Dwayne's always the one that's ready to scrap. No, ready?
Unfortunately.
I'm gonna take off.
Okay. I'd love to go stay with the film.
Huh?
You're not gonna stay with the filming?
I'll watch a little bit of it. You need to close the door, don't you?
No, echo.
Yeah, the echo's horrible if you close the door.
So what about background noise?
Yeah, what's up?
Everybody's quiet.
Okay. But this is special.
Usually, yeah, either way.
Oh, we started?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Greetings, all. This is Type of News.
Lord have mercy.
I'm Dutch Pyramid.
I'm the other guy.
First of all, we'd like to thank you all for your response on our post.
Mm-hmm.
Most of your topics that were picked were very, very crucial and in need of answering, but it will take a lot more time than what we have.
Oh yeah, so we'd have to do some, because most people just think we just sit down and just hammer away at a topic. Now we actually do some research, contrary to not commonly. Most people think you back up what we say.
I hope so.
I hope so.
I hope you think that we put a little thought into what we say, not just shooting off.
It's not scripted, but we do our research before.
For sure. So thank you all. We're gonna kick straight into it.
Kick, that's the word we want to use?
Yeah.
Kick, Superman punch, bludgeon, breach,
Bermuda has Bermuda has taken its first step into becoming Cuba.
Cuba? Actually? I don't know. Castro wasn't that bad. The Cubans in America say Castro was horrible. The Cubans in Cuba say they loved him. It's a little so I'd say Bermuda's taking its first step to, I don't know, Afghanistan, Pakistan, North Korea.
Oh, so mine was
Kazakhstan.
Mine was extensive, but
first of all, Cubans were okay. Cubans have a cure for throat cancer. They had a decent economy. Everybody ate. People was happy. Dancing in the street. Go on North Korea and see if they ain't eating in North Korea.
I feel like you haven't been to Cuba, but regardless,
my parents went and they told me it was very lovely. Okay.
Did they?
Yes. I digress.
Okay. Well, so if you're wondering exactly what we're referring to our Minister of Tourism, Jamahl Simmons, creating and drafting.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. I'm allergic to
Sense.
I'm allergic to certain things. Terribly sorry.
Oh yeah.
Terribly sorry.
Well, he drafted an amendment to basically say, because I can't fire you, Mr. Dunch, I'm going to use my ministerial authority to get the permission to fire you, which to me screams corruption. Now people wonder, what do you mean by corruption? Why would you say corruption, Dutch? Well, for the simple fact of the matter is that the first thing you do when you come into power as a 2-month-old minister?
How about that?
Yeah.
Right,
First thing you do.
No, it's November. They took actually no, cabinet took a while to get rolled out.
Yeah. So you come in, and first thing you do is you try to railroad the BTA, who has had nothing but extensively good numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You try to then challenge the CEO about his wages.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're on to Mr. Dunch, who you challenged over weeks, back and forward, like this was some playground. And finally, he resigned. But the reason why I say corruption is because even after the resignation of Mr. Dunch, you still want to pass your bill that allows you to hire and fire a commissioner, which means that Alan Dunch obviously wasn't the initial target. It was just ministerial control of the Gaming Commission.
Now, this is kind of scary, because I thought that government's job was to make legislation to hire people and not fire people. That being said, what worries me is, ever since Minister Simmons took that position, he's been gunning for Dunch's job.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. And my thing is, why? Was Dunch not doing his job? No, he was doing his job. Matter of fact, we said he wasn't doing his job, and he pulled us into his office
to talk to us
and explain why he was doing his job. Now, was Mr. Dunch trying to do anything corrupt? No. Did he not explain very in detail how the Gaming Commission was done to make sure to keep corruption out of gaming in Bermuda? So,
even a well-respected veteran.
Was Mr. Dunch not employing black comedians?
Oh.
Who did he employ that they were kicking up about? And what was he? Well, what color is Mr. Scott?
Black.
Yeah. Last time I checked.
And also, he also listed many occasions of training and initiatives that was going to be brought in, basically to insert locals into an industry that is going to be fairly new to them.
Yes, his plans for inserting locals were great. Him and Mr. Schutz did a great job. And now they're both gone because the government doesn't like them.
But my biggest issue is that once again you see that the MPs are on the same page as their premier, because Mr. Burke went and had a great speech and basically was saying how we've had a whole quarter of growth and a whole stringent great term for tourism, and that term that he was referring to was a term that the BTA was working on tourism, which was funded by the OBA. However, did he list? He has said the BTA had did a great job.
I think the BTA did do a great job.
But your premier said that, but then here comes Jamahl, Minister of Tourism, saying something to the contrary. And now you have Mr. Premier Burt and the Minister of Tourism getting on the same page and saying, oh, yeah, I support and I defend my Minister of Tourism's actions based on the fact that he says we've run one of the most anti-corruption governments in Bermuda's history. But your government's not even been around for a year. You guys haven't even been in power for a year.
Wait a second. He said what?
Yeah.
That they've run a more...
I'm going to pull up the quote.
Please do that. Because we know, everything everybody knows full well.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lie.
Yeah, and on that note, right, you basically are saying that, yes, the BTA has done a good job, but we will never give them credit for that. Yes, the Gaming Commission might not have done a good job, but it might have had something to do with the fact that Mr. Schutz was against your compadres lining their pockets with MM&I.
Now let's talk about MM&I for a second.
Yeah, please do.
Let's talk about them for a second. Now, Mr. Dunch and Mr. Schutz are both blowing the whistle on this company, yes?
Yes, correct.
Now, them being gone, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean that MM&I now we should go on the wiener? Is that what that means, sir? Really? Because if it is, and we're talking about anti-corruption, why are we trying to do a deal with a gaming company that isn't even legally allowed to operate in all U.S. jurisdictions?
Well, here's the thing. They have a questionable past, and they
have a questionable past and a questionable present and a future. Exactly. You can't even operate in all 50 states, and you trying to come down here?
But here's the thing.
And you trying to be anti-corrupt?
The thing about it is that during the time, it was tit for tat of who actually contacted who. Mr. Crockle and Mr. Pettigill put it on the OBA, and the OBA put it on Mr. Pettigill and Mr. Sean Crockle. However,
and after Mr. Pettigill and Mr. Crockle, picked up the bags and left, what happened?
They went to represent Banyan Gaming. So who, to you, if you put two and two together, where you say, okay, who is in bed with Banyan Gaming? Was it the people what was it?
Wait a second. No, who else was talking about Banyan Gaming, sir? In addition to Mr. Crockle and Mr. Pettigill?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
See, this brings me to my next point, because now I'm kind of worried about what I have to say.
Well,
Because the thing is, the government, okay, not the government, Jamahl Simmons changed legislation to get rid of Dutch. Did he not?
he did.
Did Mr. Dunch not say, my goal for the Gaming Commission is to have it as an autonomous, well, I'm not, this isn't a direct quote because I'm probably going to butcher this, I'm trying to remember it, but as an autonomous entity that is not connected or regulated by the government. Now we got the regulatory authority giving Belco hell. Mm-hmm. Okay. We got Jamahl Simmons telling the Gaming Commission that they have to get rid of their head, even though the Gaming Commission is not government.
That's right.
What can't the government touch?
Well, according to our Westminster system, not a thing. Because as long as you have even one seat of majority, everything will pass.
Okay, I get that. However, this wasn't even a vote.
Didn't need it.
He just did it. Which makes me think, like, where does it end? Because if you can take a man's position from him because you don't like him or because he's trying to blow the whistle on some of your former employees and some of your friends that might be doing some shady, whether they are doing it or not, I can't confirm that. I don't know the details, but he was saying that there might be something there. Is that a reason to get rid of the man? Apparently so. But now, the question begs, if Jamahl Simmons goes to Mr. Chicken and he fries Sasagi, is he going to change legislation to ban them from making fries? If he goes to La Trattoria and he don't like one of the meatballs, is he going to ban that as well? If he decides to, I'm going to go to the beach. You know what? I don't like Rick Olsen. I'm going to make Rick Olsen, I'm going to take Rick Olsen's restaurants from him. Pat him on his eyes when I didn't see him. Where does it end? Because what if we say something? Are you going to change legislation to stop us from doing this? Are you going to take away our freedom of speech? This is what we're worried about, because the problem is, once you cross a certain line, like, okay, classic example. Superman kills the Joker. After that, he kills everybody. Just goes crazy, just goes right off the deep end because one thing pushes him off that line and he doesn't go back. Now that that line has been crossed, who is safe and who is not? Is Generation Next safe because they take a more liking stance to the PLP? Are they safe? Because if you tell us we can't do what we do, that threatens us. That threatens Generation Next. That threatens Burma Creatives, Dev Eyes, Burma Memes, everybody.
Anybody.
So, where does it end? Are you gonna go up to Grant Gibbons and say, you know what? I don't like how you run a Gibbons company. You can't be CEO anymore, even though your name's in the title. Are you gonna do that?
Well,
they could, I guess, now.
But my thing is, I don't think that the public has really, the general public, has really been in tune with this whole Banyan Gaming and the timeline of it. Because the one who signed the memorandum was then Minister of Tourism, Sean Crockett. Now, he signed that under the OBA Alliance. Now, Mr. Dunkley came in and karate chopped that. He said, oh no, because Mr. Schutz said to him, and Mr.
Dunn said, this is a bad idea. Even the American Gaming Commission was like, I don't think you guys should do this because we know this company.
So look at the timeline.
So you have Mr. Schutz and Mr. Dunn both wave the red flag about this company. You have Dunkley. I mean, I understand a lot of people don't like him as premier, but regardless, he was the leader of the island. You have Dunkley waving the red flag on it. You even have America, who understands, knows, and has worked with this company in the past. Now, this is the thing. I think...
Yeah, but the thing is, your B line and you have the A line, right?
Right.
First things first. This was karate chopped by Mr. Dunkley, yes. After which, Mark Pettingill and Sean Crockett shortly departed from the OBA after this kerfuffle. Now, they used a whole lot of blah, 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 blah. Like Sean
a lot of
said,
hoopla.
Yeah, he don't feel comfortable in there. But the thing is, again, to define these issues. Let me show you exactly why these reasons are hogwash. Because first of all, Sean Crockwell's reason was that he didn't feel comfortable because he was black in a party, that he didn't feel like shared the interests of his people. Now, first things first.
That's a load in itself.
First things first, this guy had been in that party with the same people for years.
Wasn't Sean Crockwell part of the BDA?
Exactly.
When it started out in 2010?
Mm-hmm. And he had been with these people for years. And he was there during the merger with the UBP.
He supported the merger. Wait a second. Sean Crockwell was Michael Dunkley's running mate when UBP ran against Uwe Braun in 2006, so I don't want to hear that shit.
But that's the thing that I'm trying to show you.
And we don't, we're not trying to be insensitive.
But that's the thing that I'm trying to show you is that, with that being said, that reason is illegitimate. It's smokescreen. And then you have Mark Pettingill, who said he didn't feel like his views on same-sex marriage aligned with that of the One Bermuda Alliance. But then voted in favor of the party that was looking to remove those rights against the OBA when it came to force the hand for election. So it shows you that obviously homosexuality was not on the top of Mr. Pettingill's list when he decided to back the one government that's...
You know what was on the top of his list? You know what was on the top of his list?
That. You know what I tell you? Either way, this shows you that the reasons for why they left the One Bermuda Alliance are not wholeheartedly true. It's no way that you could believe that with the actions following the departure. And after the departure, their joint law firm decided to represent Banyan Gaming, which is underneath MM&I, which was the very company that Michael Dunkley said this government will not parley with. So, therefore, you now have that being backed by, and that was at the time backed by Mr. De Silva, who was a member of the PLP, who was screaming and hoopla over the gaming industry as a whole. They were hoopla over the gaming commission, they were hoopla over gaming regulations, and anything to do with gaming, the PLP was putting a stop to.
Doesn't this go all the way back to what they blamed good old Mr. Canner for?
But at the same time,
Who was Crockwell and Pettingill talking to when they went up there?
Well, look, that's speculation.
No, it's not. We found out that. But then again, it also goes back to, remember that trip that David Burt was supposed to take that he didn't take?
Yeah, but I was planning to take. But the thing is, right, when you see that these folks have been in bed with Banyan Gaming for a long time, Ellen Dunch's resignation shows you something very important, that the goal was not to unseat Mr. Dunch. The goal was to consolidate the Gaming Commission, and what it looks like and what foreign tabloids are writing about and foreign newspapers are writing about and the foreign gaming industry is writing about is it looks like breeding corruption. That's what it looks like.
Now that brings me to my next thing. A lot of people don't understand, we're looking at this from a Bermudian lens, but think about it. Who are we building these casinos for? Ourselves?
No.
Yeah, we're not building these for ourselves. We're building these for other people. So when people in America go say, you know what? Let me take a gambling trip. Could I go to Bermuda with its pink beaches and its sand and its blue water and its casinos, and its regulated casinos, which are legal and free of corruption, or am I gonna spend less money and go to Atlantic City, where I could gamble without having to worry about anything? Because if we bring down a corrupt gaming company, what's going to make people want to come down and give their money to a company that's been ousted for being corrupt in most jurisdictions in America? Now, sure, will people come to the casinos? Yeah, absolutely. People are curious. Hey, we can gamble in Bermuda. Of course, people are going to come, but people's not going to come just for the casinos now.
But that's only a small fish. The grand scheme of things is that you have Bermuda under a telescope as being labeled a tax haven and being under a telescope for money laundering and all other manners of things, even though we are a low tax zone, right?
Not tax haven, low tax zone. There is a difference.
With that being said, if our government continues down a path that maligns our very fragile reputation, because it's very fragile right now, we could lose the industry that fuels our GDP. Because at the end of the day, if you have a government that looks like they're clearly out to get something from the Gaming Commission, clearly, because you now have the powers that be that were backing this Banyan Gaming thing in power now. What will happen when our reputation is frowned upon by a minister who is making blatant power plays and then trying to say anti-corruption? Because once again, PLP said, and they said, we will look into and we will do our best, and we have run a great tight ship and we have measures to avoid anti-corruption. But if your minister is going to seize control of an independent entity, then it needs to be a very well documented scope of exactly what measures your government will use to monitor money laundering and combat anti-corruption. Because according to Mr. Schutz, who's a longtime veteran, he thinks that we should ditch gaming altogether at this point, which doesn't say too much for where we're shaping up.
That's another thing about Mr. Schutz's opinion. I think a lot of people disregard it because he's a successful rich white man. However, Mr. Schutz has been doing gaming since he was, how old did he say it was when he started? Like 20-something? And how old is he now? He's been doing it for a while. Now, Mr. Schutz has more insight into gambling on a global scale more than I would bet, more than most people that we could actually bring down here. This man has developed more casinos than we probably even have businesses in Bermuda. And he's saying, do not work with this company. Someone that has that much insight into the gambling world, the international gambling world, not just our tiny little island with our little problems. This man has been doing this for decades. And he is telling us, it's almost like a doctor saying, hey, you're sick because of this. Are you going to believe the doctor? Why? Because he's been doing it. Or are you going to believe that surgeon, cutting out people's livers in an alleyway with a rusty scalpel? Who are you going to choose? Someone that's been doing it for a while, that knows what they're doing, and is trying to make sure that things are done properly so people don't get screwed? Or are you going to talk to people screwing people?
I think we as a people need to understand exactly what revenue stream our country relies on, and the fact that yes, we have a lot of xenophobia around right now as Bermudians. And I know we don't like to use that word, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And we have to understand that, yes, we have a Labour government in charge. That's fine. But at the end of the day, if we keep pursuing down this path of being anti-foreigner and being overseas or international anything, we need to understand that, yes, we as a people might have that mindset, but your Labour government does not. Because Mr. Brett has been doing his tours to make sure to impress those international folks over there, because he understands where the money is at and he understands what industry we run.
But going off of what you just said, them doing what they're doing now is pretty much pulling the rug from what Bert's trying to do in the States. Because while Bert's out there doing what he should be doing, trying to make more people come to Bermuda, trying to make the island more attractive, his team down here is literally undoing his work.
Yeah, because how many hits to our reputation do we need? We already look bigoted and homophobic because we don't want to pass same-sex marriage. We already look like we're fueling corruption because our ministers are seizing control forcibly of a independent entity.
We already look like we're racist.
And he stated the BTA, he's looking at maybe doing it to the BTA. So here you have a minister that's coming in that is securing and seizing entities that are doing quite well at what they're supposed to be doing. So there's absolutely no reason listed as to why he should have fired when Ellen Dunn should be fired, and why the BTA should even be brought under ministerial control.
If anything, we should call for his resignation because clearly he's doing more damage than good.
Well, yeah, and I feel like we should extend him the same courtesy extended Mr. Dunge. We feel as though you, as Minister of Tourism,
are inept at your job
and are doing a detriment to our society by undermining our very fragile reputation
and undermining what your premier is trying to do.
So we feel as though
you should go.
We would hope and implore that you resign as Minister of Tourism and step back and allow somebody else who has a much clearer head and
doesn't have their head up their ass
and a better interest in our country to take your spot, because clearly your goal is to seize control of these independent entities, which the PLP didn't even support the founding of in the beginning. So now that they're doing good, you want to take them. And the people who are doing the jobs and had a government contract are now being voided by you, who's just coming in here with what credentials?
It's me, dude. You know, it's kind of funny. Remember when Reverend Tweed's work permit was declined by Aunt Pat?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the populace, not only did they march in the streets, but wasn't the populace like, why is she overstepping her boundaries?
Mm-hmm.
But then again, wasn't that her job to actually revoke his work permit when it wasn't done properly?
So which he admitted to.
Which he admitted to, okay. So it's funny that she got a bunch of shit for doing her job because it wasn't done properly. Like, frankly, if his work permit was done properly, it probably would have been fine.
It wouldn't have went to her.
But when Jamahl Simmons wants to overstep his boundaries and his mandate as minister, we're like, oh, I can support that. Yeah, we need to get rid of Dunch. What does he do for us anyway? I don't know. He probably just doesn't even do anything.
Yeah, so are we going to just say what the actual picture is? It's the fact that this community is completely fine with a minister exerting his authority over an affluent white male.
Mm-hmm. Because if you're a rich white man in Bermuda, clearly you must have done something wrong to get that money.
You're an enemy. And therefore, we feel like we need to rally behind injustice when it's for our skin tone and be perfectly fine, because you know what? They've had the money all this time. It's our turn.
Isn't there injustice anywhere and injustice everywhere?
Exactly. And aren't we going for equality and not to be the next Apollo?
We're not going for equality. We're going for our superiority. That's what's going on. Because in today's day and age, what we want to do is, white people done this, white people done that. We don't want to be on equal footing with the white people. We want to get them back.
We want revenge.
And that's not how we heal as a society. That's not how things go.
Especially when our country is teeter-tottering from outside forces while we squabble from within. Because we're already witnessing the Americans infringing on our industry as far as being a low tax in. And if we continue to look uncertain and continue to look like we are not open and friendly towards foreign investment and foreign work, we will lose that industry. And then guess what? We won't have to worry about white or black because we'll all be equally poor. And I know for a fact that this society can't survive not in its tax bracket, because I'm going to tell you, Bermudians have always been a flossy people, but if we keep getting the way we're getting, we got nothing to floss with.
Hot damn.
So I think it might be time for our Minister of Tourism to step down and allow somebody who is willing to proceed and work well with the experts in gambling, and proceed and work well with the people who are doing a great damn job for our tourism.
And not just be trying to get rid of people because we have either some form of personal vendetta or
we want to erase the OVA's legacy. That's all fine and dandy. You can have a grudge and an axe settle with the OVA, but don't put your people in between it.
If a government's mandate is to undo everything that the past government did when the past government did everything they could to make the country a better place, and we just have a bad government. Governments are supposed to build upon what each other do.
If it's in the best interest.
If it's in the best, well, naturally, if it's in the best interest of the country. I mean, like, you're supposed to build on what the other person does, regardless of what they do. It's like everybody keeps putting more Legos on the Lego set. You want to take them down and then put your pieces up so we literally stay at the same level.
Hence why independent entities and quangos are so important, because it doesn't matter who's in power. They will continue to do the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year plans and actually progress in the industry without having a minister change detriment that.
Exactly, and the ministers should not be changing anything to do with quangos or other entities if they are doing their job.
So resign. It's been that type of news. I'm Dutch Perman. That's Bruce Robinson. See you all later.